Hello my friends, it's Stas. Recently I had a chance to cycle in Barcelona together with my Pila and Brompton. So in this video I want to share with you my experience of cycling in the city. I had only around 3 hours to explore it, but even in such a short amount of time I completely fell in love with it. After all, Barcelona is called 11th best city in the world for cycling, and apparently for quite a good reason. And before we jump in, a quick update that I wanted to share with you. I plan to make a series of videos about my travel with Brompton around the world. Last year I was lucky enough to bring my bike to 7 countries, and each of those trips were different and unique in a sense. So in these videos I want to talk about things like cycling infrastructure, sightseeing while on the bike, and general vibe in the city. So stay tuned if you are curious about these kind of videos, and let's get into it. Now back to Barcelona. First of all, the city is absolutely gorgeous. Barcelona is probably one of the most beautiful places I have ever seen. The weather during my ride was not amazing, and still the city was very beautiful. This time was actually not my first one in Barcelona, but the first one on the bike. And I can definitely say that cycling is the best way to explore the city, miles better than walking or driving around. Probably the most remarkable thing in Barcelona is its architecture, and not only because of the genius of Antonio Gaudi. Sagrada Familia is of course the central point here, and I was completely awed by it. Funny enough, it kind of randomly got into my eye. I was just following the road with my eyes on it, and suddenly this massive building, looking like a cake from a fairy tale, just appeared in front of me and took all of the horizon. I never really realized how huge this cathedral is. It's really massive. Plus, its design is nothing like any other church I've seen before, so definitely worth seeing it with your own eyes. Speaking about Gaudi, there are also several nice and quirky buildings in the city center, not too far from Sagrada Familia, which you can also cycle by. Talking about other merits of Barcelona, the city is very green and clean, so it is a very pleasant experience to ride through it. Traffic is also rather reasonable, with moderate speed regime as well as drivers being rather courteous and observant. At least based on my short experience. There are of course some absent-minded people that are not looking at the road, but I would say no more than in any other cities that I visited so far. Cycling seems to be on the rise in Barcelona, and cycling infrastructure is definitely very solid. City is investing big time in its cycling infrastructure, and it clearly shows. There are dedicated cycling lanes on vast majority of roads I've seen, and big chunk of them is physically separated from the motor road with barriers or pillars, which is always great. It took me some time to adjust from left-sided traffic in the UK to right-sided flow in Spain, but it was not problematic at all. Some intersections were a bit tricky though, especially those where cycling lanes stopped, but these were few and never too problematic. What is different compared to the UK in terms of cycling infrastructure, cycling lanes are usually much wider. In lots of cases they pretty much took half of the road and could easily fit 2 people cycling in different directions. Traffic signs, and especially cycling-specific traffic signs, are abundant and clear. Nothing unexpected or surprising here. What was rather surprising though is absolutely crazy number of traffic lights on the road. I had to stop for a red signal way too often to my liking, especially in the city center. Cyclist-specific traffic lights are also abundant, start a bit earlier than regular traffic and are in general perfectly fine. Interestingly enough, I saw very few, if any, traffic lights and crossings operated by buttons, unlike in London where they are probably most common ones. Bikes are also plenty in the city. I was rarely alone on the cycleway. There is a widespread public bike sharing across the city. I only saw one provider with distinct bright red bikes and parking stations. I think it is managed by the city rather than privately owned, so less of a zoo of different brands like Lime, Tier, Human Forest, Dot or whatever else we see in London. Bike sharing parking spots that I saw were rather big, with 10 plus bikes in them, and most were half filled. So most likely whoever manages them is doing a great job at managing supply and demand balance for them. And if you are not bringing your Brompton or other foldable bike on a trip with you, this looks like a solid alternative. Bromptons are less frequent compared to UK though, however even in my 3 hours of cycling I saw 4 Bromptons, so my favorite foldable bike had actually found their way into the Barcelona as well. E-scooters and e-bikes were also plenty on the road, with e-scooters being much more relaxed in Barcelona compared to Londoners. Also, I don't think that I saw any cargo bikes and maybe just 1 or 2 bikes carrying kids. But overall, cyclists of all ages and genders used to cycle together with me in Barcelona on the day, which I treat as a symbol of people feeling quite comfortable and safe cycling in the city. Two cycling-specific places that I checked along the way in Barcelona are Park Fluvial del Besòs and Barcelona's embankment. The first one is located in the northeastern part of Barcelona, where El Besòs River flows through the city. The park itself is located in lowland following the river. The river is quite narrow, plus it was a heavy drought season, but it has really nice and wide grassy riverbanks on the sides. There are plenty of public sport facilities like volleyball nets and the like, so people play all sorts of sports in the park. I even dodged a ball or two flying my way while on the bike. Bordering these grassy riverbanks is a nice, straight and wide cycleway. It is quite long, I think it's 8 or 9 kilometers in total, so perfect for all sorts of endurance or long-distance cycling training like I'm doing now. Overall, the park is a great place to cycle through, very nice and beautiful, and definitely worth the detour from the city center. Another great place for cycling in the city is Embankment, that you can cycle into directly from Park Fluvial del Besòs, where the river actually meets Balearic Sea. It starts with a nice short climb when you cross the river, and then rolling into a breathtaking view across the bay and pretty much entire coastline. There's also an interesting place afterwards, with some truly futuristic installations, that's called Parc del Fòrum. It probably should be extremely busy during the summertime, but was almost completely empty during my ride, so feels a little bit weird but definitely memorable. When you then pedal into the embankment itself, there are plenty of people around, so even in the overcast February weather, still quite busy. The view at the sea is very lovely, and distance from the cycleway to water is not too far. I think in some places it is as short as a couple of meters, so you can pretty much feel the sea breeze while cycling. The cycleway here is not fully paved, with sections of gravel here and there, so be careful if you have regular all-purpose tires. So the last point to mention here, I cycled in Barcelona in late February, which apparently was quite a good time to do it. The temperature was somewhere between 13 to 15 degrees Celsius, which was perfectly fine for my regular cycling jacket and jersey. I would expect the weather to be a bit nicer and warmer in a month or two from now, but probably there will be much more people around and the city would be more busy. Anyways, early to middle spring sounds like a good time to enjoy cycling through the city. Overall, my experience of cycling through Barcelona was very nice and totally worth bringing my Brompton with me, even for a short amount of time. Barcelona truly has it all. Beautiful architecture, lots of cyclists, highly developed cycling infrastructure, and lots of lovely places to cycle by. Flying from UK to Barcelona is also rather convenient and not that expensive. It probably would be a very good option for an extended weekend retreat with your bike. And again, if you want to explore Catalonia or Barcelona specifically, doing it on a bike is a very good idea. And that's pretty much it for today. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. As I mentioned earlier, I plan to do a series of these kind of videos about traveling with Brompton and cycling around the world. So let me know what you think about this video. I wish you all the best with your cycling adventures and see you next time.